Have you looked at the date? It's April 15. I know you get a couple of days added this year because it falls on a Saturday, but it's tax day. It's also literally my 10th anniversary at SiriusXM, which we celebrated yesterday. 10 years ago, the 15th fell on a Monday. So it was the first day on SiriusXM, and yesterday was really great. Thank you for all the good wishes. I only wish that we could have accommodated, many more in studio, but I think it was a real treat for some of you who are represented here today who are with us. But thinking of taxes, did your financial advisor pay close attention to the tax consequences of every financial retirement planning move you made last year? The professionals at the Cordasco Financial Network, a part of Mercer Global Advisors, they did. They'll help you. Maybe it's too late for this year, unless you have an extension and you're really in a jam. Well, then call them. They can help. 855-558-3500. But if not for your 2022 taxes, how about for 2023? Call Steve Cordasco and the team. Cordasco Financial Network. It's a trade name owned by Mercer Global Advisors. Investment advisory services are offered through Mercer Global Advisors, Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities provided through Andrew Garrett, Inc., member of FINRA and SIPC. Consultation with your tax professional, that's always recommended. So I was scheduled to go on with Wolf Blitzer last night, name dropper, 6 o'clock, 6:30 Philly time. And I was working on my own program, which I'm about to deliver on CNN. Producer sends me a note and they said they want to talk about, Wolf wants to talk about the NRA meeting in Indianapolis and how all the 2024 Republican wannabes are speaking. And I said, well, I'm not able to monitor the different speeches today because I'm just too overwhelmed. But I'll certainly come on and offer some thoughts, generally speaking. So what ran through my mind was the fact that we've just had these shooting incidents in Louisville and in Nashville. By the way, a quick experiment. Think to yourself right now, you don't have to answer, but very quickly, what happened in Louisville? Very quickly. What happened in Nashville? For a moment, I had to stop and think, wait a minute, which was which? Oh, right. Louisville was the bank where the 25-year-old comes in and he kills 5 colleagues. What was Nashville? Nashville was the school, the Covenant School, 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults. But the fact that those incidents could take place and me, that I'm totally dialed in and do this for a living, and I got to think, wait a minute, which one was that? Is itself frightening. And that then gave me an idea. I'm thinking to myself, the NRA is in this unenviable position, not that I'm a defender of the NRA, of having to have their annual confab so soon after these 2 shooting incidents, these 2 mass shootings, high profile, terrible carnage, mass shootings. Then a light bulb went off in my head. I remembered a story, and of course, TC helped me uncover it 2 years ago, where tapes came to light at NPR, recordings that were made of deliberations by the NRA, because in 1999, after Columbine, 10 days later, same state, Colorado, the NRA was scheduled to have its annual convention in Denver. And so these tapes came to light that shone a light on this is the Charlton Heston era of the NRA. Wayne LaPierre was still like the top executive guy there then, as he is now. Amazing that he's hung on. And when you hear the tape, I've read the transcripts. When you see what was discussed, it's the NRA essentially saying, how the hell are we going to deal with this? All of our kooks are going to be in, their words, all of our kooks are going to be in the exhibition hall fondling the weapons 10 days after there was that horrible carnage, the worst school shooting in American history at Columbine. in the end, although they gave thought to canceling their confab, they went ahead with it, and they thought that they would otherwise be surrendering a platform that they needed to defend themselves in the Second Amendment. Okay, what's my point? My point is that I'm sure in 1999, after Columbine, there was a decision that had to be made by the NRA as to whether they were going to go ahead with this. But I'll bet you anything with regard to Indy yesterday, in the aftermath of Louisville and Nashville, they probably didn't give any consideration to it. Why? Because, as the thumbnail says for this conversation, we are totally desensitized. So I said a piece of that to Wolf last night. And then lo and behold, I open up today's New York Times, and the Times has a story on this same general issue written before the speeches had taken place yesterday. That's the price you pay for getting the print edition, is they're not caught up. But here's the way that it begins. In 2018, prominent Republicans affirmed their strong support for gun owners' rights at the annual gathering of the National Rifle Association, 3 months after a gunman had murdered 17 people in Parkland, Florida. In 2022, they descended on the NRA's event a few days after a gunman had killed 21 in Uvalde. Here's the takeaway. It's gotten so bad, there are so many of these mass shootings, that no matter when the NRA schedules its convention, the likelihood is that some gunman would have just killed a bunch of people. And you're not going to have them behind closed doors saying the sort of things that they said back in 1999. Wayne LaPierre, quote, the other problem is holding a member meeting without an exhibit hall. The people you are most likely to get in that member meeting without an exhibit hall are the nuts. Like, they know whose interests they're representing. Hammer and LaPierre are also among the NRA's officials who can be heard disparaging some of the group's membership. In the aftermath of the shooting, McQueen reasons that normal members would stay away from the site of the tragedy, leaving only the group's most extreme members as attendees. Right, they knew, like, holy shit, it's 10 days after Columbine. The sane ones, they're not coming to the convention. It's only going to be the nuts who will show up. But they've surrendered the whole dialogue to the nuts, haven't they? My favorite story of the week, having nothing to do with the NRA, having nothing to do with the leak of all this information by the 21-year-old Massachusetts Air National Guardsman, having nothing to do with Donald Trump directly. But my favorite story of the week is going to make it onto CNN today, and I'm just really excited about this. We talked about it, I think, on Tuesday on radio, the horn honking case. I love this case. I love this case. In fact, so much so that it's the poll question of the day today, although it requires a little bit of explanation. The poll question at Smerconish.com today asks, should honking a horn be protected speech under the First Amendment? And the background is that there's a woman in California, Southern California, down San Diego way. There's a little cafe. Used to play all night long. That's the Bruce song. Anyway, sorry, I diverted into song lyrics. Her name is Susan Porter. In the early days of the Trump administration, there were protests regularly held outside the office of Congressman Darrell Issa. And these were protests against Trump policies and maybe Issa too. I don't know. But the point is, Susan Porter went to the protests. And upon leaving the protests in solidarity, like she's now leaving, but other people are there, I presume carrying signs and so forth, in solidarity with the protesters, boop, 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 14 times. 14 times she boops the horn in solidarity with the protesters. There's a policeman there. Policeman writes her up in violation of the California Motor Vehicle Code, Section 2107, which applies to vehicles on the highway and says that they can use their horns only for safety operation or as a theft alarm. If somebody's stealing your car, like somebody comes up, they're stealing you can lay on the horn. Otherwise, only as a safety issue on the California roadway can you boop the horn. You see a friend, boop, boop. No, can't do it, cannot do it. So in this case, the police officer who writes her up doesn't show up for the hearing, having been written up in violation of 2107. By the way, why doesn't that ever happen for me? In my case, for speeding, they always seem to show up. So she files a civil suit anyway, and she challenges the constitutionality of this provision of the California Highway Code. Summary judgment is entered at the district trial court level. This is all in federal court for the state. She appeals it to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and a 3-judge panel now has to weigh the constitutionality of that section of the California Vehicle Code. Specifically, does it infringe on her First Amendment right? Should you be able to honk a horn for a political motivation or purpose? And they end up upholding the constitutionality of that provision. The majority acknowledges in the majority opinion, they acknowledge that yes, there are circumstances where this could squelch speech, but they find that it's been very narrowly tailored. That's key in a First Amendment analysis, and that it applies across the board evenly. So it's not only you can't honk, for a left-wing cause or a right-wing cause for an ideological purpose. It doesn't distinguish. It just says honking is only for a security purpose, a safety purpose while on the roadway. A dissenting opinion found that it was a limitation. It was an unconstitutional violation of the First Amendment when you said that you can't honk the horn. It's interesting because in the majority opinion, they said, hey, she had a lot of alternatives. She could have given a thumbs up. She could have just waved. She could have parked her car and gone out and carried a sign, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She should have done those things. And then the dissenting opinion comes back and says, you're advocating she be less safe because she'd have to take her hand off the wheel, presuming like we're all out there like this, right? True. She'd have to take her hand off the wheel if she wanted to give a thumbs up or a wave. I love it. I just love this story. Should honking a car horn be protected speech under the First Amendment? That is the question. That is the poll question. It requires a little bit of explanation. So we hit a record last Saturday on our voting. I think it was like, TC would know, but I think it was like 55,000 people voted last Saturday. Today, I'm not going to hit those kind of numbers, but that's okay. I'm going to love it. Here's some of the coverage of this. Ninth Circuit upholds California ban on indiscriminate honking. What do you think? You like that? David Kesson, obviously it was over the top honking. It can be obnoxious. Rose, thank you. 58,000 is what we hit. She had to take her hand off the wheel to honk. Well, I don't know. Do some of you have? I mean, probably, yeah. Do you know on my car, if I hit the horn, camera immediately runs. Camera immediately runs. Seriously, there are bigger fish to fry than this. Mary Coyle, don't be a buzzkill. It's a great First Amendment issue. And I got to tell you, Mary, this is why I love it. This is why I love it. My principle of talk radio, I feel obligated to tell you this now on the 10th anniversary of being on SiriusXM, 30 plus years in the business. My life is a never-ending search for those issues about which there's some partisan aspect, a political issue, but it has an every man or every woman appeal, that you don't have to be totally dialed in on the news to have an opinion. A great beer conversation. Like we're having a beer, we're having a cocktail together. It's like, hey, you think you have a First Amendment right to go out and blow your horn? Like, maybe there's an anti-war protest and you go by, beep, 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 beep. Do you have a First Amendment right to do that? How could you not love this issue? It was on the highway. Could it have caused an accident if she was in the street? Not as serious. Who knows, says Barbara Antio. Remember, this only applies. I'll tell you something else funny. It only applies on the highway because when I first heard of this, I just looked at the clock. I got to hurry up. When I first saw the story, do you know what I thought of? I got to mention this on TV today. I thought of the Biden events in the waning days of the 2020 election where they were held in drive-in theaters. I have this vision in my head of one of them being up in Scranton. And what did the people do? They beeped their horn. Biden would come out and speak, and they were very limited, very COVID acknowledging. Boop, 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 boop. Was that a violation of this? No, because they weren't on the highway. Okay, but what if you drove by, like there's the Biden event, and you know what's going on over there, and you're for or against Biden. Boop, boop, boop. You lay on the horn on the highway. You are exercising your First Amendment right, aren't you? So if they say you're not allowed to do that, what does that mean? May I please get some likes? I'm not seeing enough likes. I need, come on. I'm like a juggler. Was that not entertaining? Huh? I'm a magician. Give me a couple of likes right here so that I feel better about our time together. It's all right. Really? Come on. A little something for the effort. That's the way you I'm like the maitre d' who's looking to be greased. You gotta, okay, that's a little bit better. Like and subscribe. I'll see you on TV soon. Give TC some play. She's got a tearjerker of a TC After Dark podcast this week. Thank you so much. Those of you who listen to the radio program on a regular basis, 10 years in at SiriusXM as of literally today. Thank you for that. See you soon.